Hello, welcome back. This is part 2 of my Gendercare experience. During the appointment, Dr Lorimer was lovely, really lovely guy, really genuine, really seemed to thoroughly and actually care about his patients. He was quite funny as well, and just generally a really chill dude. It didn't feel like I was being interrogated, which was something I worried about. I have health issues and I've had very, very bad experiences with medical professionals for a solid decade, so I'm not that comfortable around them. But he was nothing like I expected. I was really comfortable. I just felt like I was talking to a friend for an hour. I barely even noticed the hour go past. I just felt very, very at ease with him as a person. We discussed... I'm going to put a small disclaimer here, actually. Because this was about 2 years ago, I'm going to paraphrase everything that was said, so don't take from me directly what will happen. I'm not speaking for Dr Lorimer or Dr Seal in any of this. This will be my interpretation of our meeting together from 2-year-old memories. Not 2-year-old memories like from the age, but like from memories that are 2 years old from now. I have a fairly accurate memory, but I just mean I'm going to paraphrase them, so you don't hold them to what I've said about them. Disclaimer done. Where am I? We discussed my childhood and sort of basically went over any times that I could remember my gender identity playing a role in my life, anything that I noticed from a young age. One thing I remembered, just as an example of the sort of things, was when I was quite young, somebody told me that boys like girls when they get older. And I didn't know exactly what liking was, but I was sure as hell I didn't want to feel that way about girls. And I just remember sort of shutting myself alone in my room and crying for ages. And I didn't realise that I'd been automatically thinking of myself as a boy for that to apply to me, because I just didn't really think about it. I'm also gay, so that would be why I had that reaction. It's not that there's anything wrong with liking girls. But little things like that, and I thought the way he asked questions was really useful and very thought-provoking, especially because I'm neurodivergent. I don't necessarily... I can leave information out without realising that it's relevant if I'm asked to just blanket explain something. If I have to be the one to come up with what's relevant and what's not, I might leave bits out. But he asked questions that were a brilliant balance between being prompting and thought-provoking without being intrusive. And it was really interesting, actually, to see my answers, because I didn't think about a lot of this before he asked me. But as I was answering, I was really amazed that I didn't catch on to the fact that I was trans a lot sooner, because a lot of my answers were just so obvious that I was trans. But I thought he had a really good style of asking questions. I thought it was really interesting. Almost going to say it was a fun experience. He was polite, friendly, very respectful. Probably a given, but just no problem with my name and pronouns. Absolutely respectful there and fine. They actually asked me before I saw them in an email. That was one of the questions I got sent to answer. I got a small list of questions from their website that they wanted to know. And one was what name and pronouns, so they were absolutely great with that. I didn't feel uncomfortable at any point. And he sort of went through my life like that, asking about things that were related to my gender identity and just experiences I'd had in general. I was a little bit worried because I know that sometimes, if you have a history of traumatic events, some clinicians can be a bit gatekeepery if you have mental health issues. Now, this is probably not that common anymore. I really hope it's not that common anymore. And it wasn't my experience with them at all, but before I went, I was a little worried that if they asked about some of the more traumatic things in my life, they might consider that had something to do with my gender identity, which we all know that it doesn't work like that. Correlation is not causation, and he understood that perfectly. He was at no point anything like gatekeepery, and I felt very comfortable telling him about the bad times as well as the good times without fearing that it would affect my transition, which was really important to me, because I didn't know before I saw him what he was like and if this would be a concern. Absolutely wasn't. I felt comfortable telling him anything, including my use of coping mechanisms and including some of the more unhealthy ones I'd taken, and that was absolutely fine. So he just sort of built up a picture of me and a picture of my life experiences, and then asked about my aims and what I wanted to achieve from them, which I said I was after testosterone. So he wanted to get me on testosterone within about a month, because he can prescribe a bridging prescription. This is quite an important thing as well. I have just been reading the facts page, and it says that not every clinician can provide a private prescription. Only Dr. Seal and Lorimer can. So, depending on when you're watching this video, I'd check out their facts page and ask if you're unsure, but I think that's important to consider. So generally, it was a really great appointment. I had fun. It was nice to be asked these questions. I wasn't at all afraid about giving answers that showed some of the more difficult times I'd had. I wasn't afraid of him knowing about my struggles. It was absolutely very comfortable and fine. After the appointment, I received an email on the 26th of March with a copy of his report asking for me to confirm the addresses and correct any inaccuracies. There were no inaccuracies. It was all incredibly accurate, and I felt very, very listened to and understood. I'm going to say, as somebody that's neurodiverse, being misunderstood is like the bane of my life. It happens a lot. So I was really impressed that it was incredibly accurate when I am quite a perfectionist when I apply the word accurate to how somebody has understood me. So it was very accurate. I was asked to arrange an appointment with Dr. Seal at the appointment as well, as soon as I could. Dr. Lorimer conferred with Dr. Seal about my blood tests, and they sort of... I don't know what they did because this was behind the scenes work, but I know that they had to confer together to work out if testosterone was... if my blood tests were fine and what dose I should put on, etc., etc., because Dr. Seal is the endocrinologist. I received my first prescription, along with the letter he had written in his report, on the 16th of April 2018, obviously. And then handing it into a pharmacy and waiting was a couple of days wait, so I started testosterone on the 18th of April 2018, which is 6 months, almost exactly, from my initial contact with Gendercare. And that might sound like a long time, but honestly, even then, even waiting, the months absolutely flew by. It felt very fast. It didn't feel as hopeless as it will sound listening to it. So as I mentioned previously, I was a little bit delayed because I didn't realise that my GP needed a signed shared care document. So I would recommend checking with your practice if this is required and getting that sorted at your first appointment or before you get to this part. Because I then had to pay for testosterone privately twice. Which was 60 quid each, which I'm not that great for money, but luckily I had saved up a lot to afford the appointments, so I was able to, but it was a bit of a struggle. Dr. Lorimer doesn't charge for the prescriptions themselves, but the cost of the medication at the pharmacy was the £60 each time. If I'd been more aware of what was required and had planned better in advance, it just was an unnecessary cost if you do it with more consideration. But obviously I didn't know until I went through it, so I can be a dire warning where I'm not a good example. Learn from my mistake, make all new ones. I had to save money to make sure that whenever the appointment with Dr. Seal was arranged, I would be able to pay for it, so I contacted Dr. Seal on the 17th of June 2018. I was told that the wait time for him was approximately 12 months, which suited me just fine so that I could save money slowly and not have to skip too many meals. I saw Dr. Seal on the 24th of February 2019. I had bloods taken from my GP practice to bring with me to see him. And he was really nice. He was great. He was very practical, very sort of pragmatic person. Very clinical guy, but in a good way. Like, he would answer any question I asked. I would like a good, in-depth, thorough understanding. And he gave me that. Without it being sort of over-the-top technical, he just answered stuff in a very pragmatic fashion. And any question I had, he answered. And I really liked that. He was really nice, sort of friendly guy, again, very comfortable with him. He went over sort of similar questions, and we went over a bit of my history and sort of things like that. And then some more stuff on the medical side, like he told me how to examine and check my chest for lumps, which is something that I generally avoided doing, so just sort of more leaning towards the medical side, but also very respectful, very chill guy. After seeing him, my dose was increased because my bloods showed my T levels to be low. He alerted me through letters sent in the post very promptly. After 8 weeks of the increased dose, I sent him blood tests again, just through the post. And he got back to me again very quickly, telling me that my T was still a bit low, so to increase my dose again, have bloods taken again in 8 weeks, which I did. But at that point, I was accepted by my GIC, so I signed off from Gendercare and took the results to them instead. So overall, I found my experience with Gendercare to be really fantastic. I couldn't recommend them thoroughly enough. They were very, very understanding and very compassionate, and seemed to genuinely care. Very prompt, very efficient. Whenever, as an existing patient, they could get back to you very quickly. Within a couple of days, really, I'd get an email back if I asked questions. Like when I asked for a signed shared care document from my GP, they were very prompt in sending that out. And when I expressed concerns that my GP didn't understand the process and might be a bit hesitant, he reassured me that they have to guide them often and it's okay, and he would send letters out to do just that. The second prescription I had to pay for myself, I thought shared care would be arranged at that point, but we had hit another snag from my GP's practices side. So I didn't want to be late with my dose, and I was about to run out, so I had about 3 days to get a prescription in. I sent him an email asking for an emergency prescription, which he sent out immediately, so I got that with it in time. So they were very efficient, very prompt, very considerate, very professional, just really, really great service from them. I absolutely loved how quickly they were able to respond to emails and answer questions thoroughly. I really, absolutely am so grateful to both Dr. Seal and Dr. Lorimer for everything they did for me. He also wrote out a passport change letter for me, so I can get my passport changed whenever I have the money, basically. He did that without extra costs. There were no hidden fees, no monthly charges. I paid per appointment, so it's $300 for the first appointment for Dr. Lorimer and $300 again for the appointment for Dr. Seal. So it depends on how many appointments you're going to have with them. I was coming up to needing another appointment with Dr. Seal, but my GIC accepted me just then. So how many appointments you'll have to have is what you'll have to budget for, but there are no hidden costs or fees. Another bonus is, due to the really thorough and lengthy assessment letter I got, the GIC process has been a little sped up for me. They included that as one assessment, so rather than having to be assessed twice at my GIC, I've only had to be assessed once, which has really saved me some months. I absolutely recommend Gendercare if you can afford to take that route. I think they're fantastic people and they do really good work. I really recommend them. And if there's any chance they ever see this video, I just want to say thank you again. Honestly, for saving my life. So yeah, that is my full experience with Gendercare. I'm going to leave relevant links in the description of this one as well, so check out their page, check out their frequently asked questions section. Make sure you read through everything so that you're aware of everything as it happens, before it happens. And again, this will just be a guide, especially for waiting list times, because this was 2 years ago and I don't know what the waiting lists are like now, or what may have changed, so definitely don't take anything I've said as gospel. It's just one person's experience, and check with them, check on their website. But just as people, as a professional service they offer, I thoroughly recommend them.